Welcome, Professor Fraser, to KFUPM. Is this your first time? And tell us about yourself. What brought you to nanotechnology, and how did you get attracted to this field?
Well, I'm very highly privileged to be visiting your university. The road to nanotechnology was a long one. It started on a Scottish farm back in the 1940s, and there I learnt about new implements and machines, tractors and motor cars that could be taken apart and put together again. So to begin with, my life was that of an engineer on what I call the University of Life. I then went to school, of course, and that was a highly privileged situation I reflect on in Edinburgh. Edinburgh used to be called the Athens of the North. It went through a period of enlightenment, and I believe that from that period my high school teachers were some of the very best I could ever have dreamt of having in my whole life. So I had a very good high school training, not just in science, but in the arts, in English, in geography and history, in languages. So it was a very broad education. Then I had a period at Edinburgh University, and I chose chemistry for the very obvious reason that I had two very excellent chemistry teachers. And after that I took to the air for the first time in my life and went to Canada to be a postdoctoral researcher at Queen's University, Kingston, Ontario. And that was the time when I left Edinburgh with my professor's words ringing in my ears. "You, Stoddart," he always called me by my last name, "whatever you do, work on a big problem." And I began to find that big problem very quickly when I got to Queen's University. I learnt about the discovery of the crown ethers by Charles Pedersen, which eventually led to the Nobel Prize awarded to both Donald Cram and Jean-Marie Lane, along with Charles Pedersen in 1987. So I started down the road of host-gas chemistry and supramolecular chemistry during a period of what turned out to be a good almost 20 years in a sense. And so that's why I referred to the long period of training that I went through before I was able to break loose and start to move into the area of the mechanical bond and molecular nanotechnology.
Great, sir. What was your paper today, and what was discussing?
Sorry, what was my paper?
Okay.
Oh, my paper today. Yes, it was discussing, first of all, the nature of the mechanical bond as a fundamental new discovery in chemistry that has been brought to fruition over the last 30 years, roughly speaking, and how that led to the development of molecular switches and then finally molecular machines. The difference between a molecular switch and a molecular machine being that the former do not do any work. You merely switch them on and off, whereas a molecular machine at the end of the day has to do some work.
How do you see, is it your first visit to Saudi Arabia and KFUPM?
I've been to Saudi Arabia many times. My visits have almost exclusively been to Riyadh, to be visiting KACST. I have visited only one other time this side of the country when I was at the opening ceremony of KAUST.